Hey everyone, and welcome to a deep dive into something I think we all could use a little more of
Yeah.
confidence when speaking English.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to unpack this really cool 30-day guide
Okay.
that promises to help you find your voice and really express yourself
Yeah.
more freely. And we're talking actionable steps, fascinating insights into how our brains even learn language,
Right.
and maybe even a few aha moments along the way. What I found really interesting was this guide doesn't just throw you into these complex conversations. It starts with what they call baby steps.
Oh.
Things that you might think are super basic,
Yeah.
but they actually lay the groundwork for
Yeah.
real confidence.
That's a really smart approach. It's like building a house. You need a solid foundation before you start adding walls and a roof.
Uh-huh.
And in this case, the foundation is like self-assurance, getting comfortable with yourself and your voice.
Okay, so let's imagine someone named Sarah who's been wanting to boost her English speaking confidence.
Mm.
She's got this guide. It's day 1, week 1. What's she doing?
Well, she might be surprised to find herself standing in front of the mirror, practicing simple introductions like, "Hi, my name is Sarah," or "I'm from her city country." It might feel a little silly at first, but this is where those baby steps come in.
It's interesting, isn't it? We learn these basic phrases in our very first English class. But when's the last time we actually practiced saying them out loud with confidence?
Exactly. And the guide even encourages Sarah to go a step further and have a little chat with herself in the mirror,
Oh, no.
describing her day or her thoughts. It's about getting those words flowing out naturally without overthinking it.
It's like warming up those vocal cords and getting used to the sound of your own voice speaking English. I'm already starting to see how this could build confidence. What else does Sarah have in store for week 1?
Well, the guide recommends spending some time each day reading aloud from simple English texts.
Okay.
It could be a children's book, a news article, even a blog post about something she enjoys. The key is to focus on clear pronunciation and getting comfortable with the rhythm of the language.
So by the end of week 1, Sarah's warmed up her voice, practiced those basic introductions, and maybe even had a few imaginary conversations with herself in the mirror. She's starting to feel a bit more comfortable expressing herself in English.
Absolutely. And that feeling of comfort is crucial because now she's ready to move on to week 2, where the focus shifts to a skill that's essential for any language learner: listening.
And I've always considered listening to be a passive activity. You just kind of sit back and absorb the information. But this guide seems to suggest that listening plays a much more active role in developing speaking confidence.
You're absolutely right. Think about it. How do children learn their native language? Through imitation. They listen to the adults around them and then try to copy what they hear. This guide taps into that same learning process, but with a more structured approach.
Okay, so walk me through this. Sarah's starting week 2. What does this active listening look like in practice?
The guide suggests that she choose some English videos or shows that she enjoys. It could be anything from a comedy series to a documentary about her favorite hobby. The key is to watch with subtitles on, so she can follow along with both the spoken and written word.
Got it. So she's watching, listening, and reading. But where does the active part come in?
This is where it gets fun. The guide encourages Sarah to pause the video frequently and repeat the sentences she just heard, mimicking the speaker's pronunciation and intonation as closely as possible.
It's like she's doing voiceover work for the show. But I can see how this would be incredibly helpful in developing, like a natural sounding accent and rhythm.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is that when you actively engage in this process of listening and repeating, your brain starts to create new neural pathways, strengthening those connections between the sounds you hear and the muscles you use to produce those sounds.
So it's like building those confidence muscles at a neurological level. I love that. But isn't there a risk of just mimicking the actors' accents and ending up sounding, well, a bit too much like them?
That's a great question. Remember, this is about building confidence and fluency, not erasing your own unique voice.
Right.
The guide emphasizes finding a balance between clear pronunciation and embracing your individuality. It's about communicating effectively, not sounding like someone you're not.
So it's not about trying to achieve some kind of perfect accent. It's about finding your own comfortable style of speaking while ensuring that you're clear and easily understood.
Precisely. And another important element of week 2 is expanding Sarah's repertoire of everyday phrases. Think of those common expressions that come up in conversations all the time,
Right.
like, can you help me? Or, I don't understand.
Right, those phrases that can sometimes trip us up when we're trying to speak spontaneously. It's like having a mental toolbox filled with ready-to-use phrases for those common situations.
Exactly. And by the end of week 2, Sarah will have honed her listening skills, practiced imitating native speakers, and added a whole bunch of useful phrases to her conversational toolkit. She's well on her way to building that solid foundation of confidence.
This is fascinating stuff. We've gone from baby steps in front of the mirror to actively training our brains to listen and imitate like pros. Sarah's come a long way in just 2 weeks. What happens next?
Well, now that Sarah's comfortable with herself and has been working on her listening and pronunciation, it's time to put those skills into practice in real conversations. That's what week 3 is all about. But we'll dive into that after a quick break.
Expert speaker. We left off with Sarah feeling a lot more comfortable speaking English, thanks to those baby steps and some serious listening practice.
Right.
Week 3 throws her into the world of real conversations. I have to admit, this is the part that always makes me a bit nervous, even after years of learning languages.
It's completely natural to feel some apprehension. Even Sarah might be feeling a little intimidated by this. It's like stepping out onto a stage after weeks of rehearsals. But the guide provides like a really gentle approach to kind of help ease her into these real-world interactions.
So it's not like she's suddenly thrown into like a high-pressure debate or anything.
Yeah. No, not at all. The guide suggests starting small, perhaps with a friend or a family member who speaks English. It could be as simple as asking, how was your day? Or what's your favorite food?
It's okay.
These low-stakes conversations can really help build confidence and get her used to like the natural flow of back and forth communication.
You know, those small interactions can be surprisingly powerful.
Yeah.
I remember when I was learning Spanish, just ordering a coffee in Spanish felt like a major victory.
Exactly. And each small victory builds upon the last, creating this positive feedback loop that just fuels Sarah's confidence.
I like that.
Now, if Sarah's feeling a bit more adventurous and wants to kind of branch out beyond her immediate circle, the guide suggests exploring online communities or language exchange platforms.
Oh yeah, those platforms are amazing. You can connect with people from all over the world who are also learning English. It's like having a global network of practice partners.
Precisely. And what's great about these communities is that everyone is there for the same reason, to practice and improve their language skills. It creates a safe and supportive space to make mistakes without feeling judged.
Yeah.
It's where Sarah can really experiment with what she's learned and see how those phrases she's been practicing actually work in conversations.
I imagine it's also really motivating to connect with people from different cultures and hear their stories. It makes the whole language learning process feel more meaningful.
Absolutely. Now, along with those real-world conversations, week 3 also introduces a powerful tool for self-reflection.
Okay.
Recording yourself speaking.
I have to admit, the idea of listening to my own voice makes me cringe a little. But I can see how it would be helpful in identifying areas for improvement.
It's all about shifting our perspective. Instead of seeing those recordings as sources of criticism, we can view them as valuable feedback mechanisms. It's like having a coach who can point out those subtle habits we might not even be aware of.
Right.
Whether it's a tendency to speak too quickly or to mumble certain words.
So how does this recording exercise actually work? Does Sarah need any fancy equipment?
No, not at all. The guide keeps it simple. Sarah can just use the voice memo app on her phone.
Okay.
The task is to choose any topic that interests her and speak about it for 1 minute, recording her voice as she goes.
That's a great way to track progress, too. She can compare her week 3 recording to the one she made back in week 1 and actually hear the improvement in her fluency and confidence.
Exactly. And it's not just about identifying weaknesses. These recordings also help Sarah recognize her strengths and celebrate her progress. It's a powerful reminder that she's moving in the right direction.
Now, if week 3 is about dipping her toes into the conversational pool, week 4 is where Sarah takes the plunge.
Righty-do. Week 4 is all about pushing those boundaries and stepping outside of her comfort zone. This is where the guide introduces some exciting challenges designed to accelerate her progress.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What kind of challenges are we talking about?
One of the core challenges in week 4 is preparing and delivering a short speech, maybe 2 to 3 minutes long, on a topic that interests Sarah. It could be anything from her favorite hobby to a current event she's passionate about.
Wow, that's a big step.
Yeah.
Public speaking can be daunting even for native English speakers. How does the guide support Sarah through this challenge?
It provides a clear framework. breaking down the task into manageable steps. It encourages Sarah to brainstorm ideas, structure her thoughts, and practice her delivery beforehand. The guide also emphasizes that perfection isn't the goal.
Right.
It's about the experience of pushing past those fears and expressing herself in a more formal setting.
I can imagine that sense of accomplishment after delivering that speech, even if it's just to a small group of friends, must be incredible.
Absolutely. It's a tangible sign of progress
Yeah.
that boosts her confidence and motivates her to keep going.
Yeah.
Now, in addition to the speech, the guide throws in another challenge.
Okay.
Asking questions in public settings. It could be as simple as asking for directions, ordering food at a restaurant,
Yeah.
or inquiring about a product at a store.
Those everyday interactions can be surprisingly challenging, especially when you're still building your confidence. I remember feeling so flustered trying to buy train tickets in Italy. I'm sure Sarah can relate to that feeling.
Definitely. And that's precisely why the guide encourages her to embrace these small moments as opportunities to practice her speaking skills in real-world situations. Each interaction, no matter how brief, contributes to her overall fluency and confidence. And to wrap up week 4 on a positive note, the guide has Sarah revisit those recordings she made back in week 1.
Oh, that's a brilliant idea. Hearing how much she's improved in just 4 weeks must be incredibly motivating.
It is. It reinforces the idea that progress is possible, even if it's not always immediately apparent. And it sets the stage for continued growth beyond the 30-day program.
This deep dive has already been packed with so many insights. We've covered everything from practicing in front of the mirror to delivering a speech. It's amazing to see how this guide combines these practical techniques with a focus on mindset and self-compassion.
It's truly a holistic approach to building confidence, and it's inspiring to see how it empowers learners to embrace their own unique journey.
Now, we know that Sarah has successfully completed the 4-week plan, but the guide doesn't stop there. It also provides some bonus tips for daily practice. Let's discuss those and wrap up this episode after a quick break. We've been following Sarah through this awesome 30-day guide to boost her English-speaking confidence.
Yay.
And she's reached the end of the core program, but the guide offers these bonus tips to kind of keep the momentum going.
Yeah, I love that.
I think that's like the cool down stretches after an intense workout.
It is. Those bonus tips are all about integrating those new confidence-building habits into Sarah's daily life.
Yeah.
It's about making language learning a sustainable part of her routine,
Right.
not just a 30-day sprint.
So it's less about cramming in hours of study and more about finding those little pockets of time throughout the day to practice.
Yeah.
That feels much more manageable, especially for someone with a busy schedule like Sarah.
One of the simplest yet most effective tips is setting a daily goal of learning 5 new words.
Okay.
But it's not just about memorizing definitions. The guide encourages Sarah to actually use those words in sentences, whether it's writing them down, saying them out loud, or even incorporating them into those imaginary conversations she's been having with herself in the mirror.
It makes so much sense. It's like taking those new words out for a test drive, seeing how they work in different contexts. It's much more likely she'll remember those words if she actively uses them.
Absolutely.
What other gems does the guide offer?
Another fantastic tip is keeping a journal in English. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate, just a few sentences or a paragraph each day,
Or-
reflecting on her thoughts, feelings, or experiences.
You know, I've always loved the idea of journaling, but I tend to get bogged down on the pressure of making it perfect. This guide seems to emphasize, the process over perfection.
Exactly. It's about getting those thoughts and ideas flowing onto the page without worrying too much about grammar or style. And as Sarah's confidence grows, she can always go back and refine those entries later.
And finally, the guide's overarching message for maintaining momentum is all about consistency.
Yeah.
Even if Sarah can only spare 10 or 15 minutes a day, the key is to make language learning like a regular habit. It's those small, consistent efforts that compound over time.
Right.
Just like those small steps you took back in week 1.
It's a reminder that building confidence fluency, any new skill, is an ongoing journey. It's not about reaching a destination and stopping. It's about embracing the process of continuous learning and growth.
So we've followed Sarah's progress through this 30-day program, from those initial baby steps to the challenges of week 4. And what I found really interesting is how this guide combines these practical techniques with that focus on mindset and self-compassion.
It's not just about learning grammar rules or memorizing vocabulary. It's about cultivating a sense of self-assurance and embracing the journey of language learning with a spirit of curiosity and compassion.
Now, as we wrap up this deep dive, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What aspect of this guide resonated with you the most?
What struck me was how this guide blends practical techniques with a focus on mindset. It's not about reaching a certain level of fluency. It's about empowering learners to find their voice and express themselves confidently in any situation.
Absolutely. And on that note, we'd love to hear your thoughts as well. Which tips resonated with you? What are you going to try first? Until next time, keep those confidence muscles flexed. And remember, every word you speak brings you one step closer to fluency. Happy learning.